Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Interesting statement coming from Vladimir Putin during an interview. He claims that Wagner Group does not exist. Well, so let's dive into this Russia Today article. I found it on Sputnik as well, but I picked Russia Today. I don't know, I like the color green, I guess. This is from July 13th, 2023. And the title reads, Wagner does not exist, Putin tells media. The Russian president has opened up about his Kremlin meeting with mutineers. Russian law does not recognize the existence of private military companies, including Wagner, President Vladimir Putin told the newspaper Kommersant on Thursday, when asked about his recent meeting with commanders of the mutinous group. While attending a technology fair in Moscow, Putin was asked whether Wagner will continue operating as a combat formation. And I'm quoting Putin right now. Well, private military company PMC Wagner does not exist, end quote. Putin told Kommersant correspondent. And I'm quoting again Putin, we don't have a law on private military companies, so it simply doesn't exist, end quote. And obviously the question rises, under what kind of mandate those guys from Wagner PMC were operating so far. And I'm quoting again Putin. The group exists, but legally it does not. End quote. The president clarified, and I'm quoting again, it's a separate issue related to legalization that needs to be taken up by the State Duma and the government. A complicated question, end quote. So, it exists, but not as a private military company. And he is going to explain further, or I think the newspaper is going to explain further, Russia Today, what does that mean by it operated, but then it didn't operate? Clearly, he was a private military company. It has troops in Africa, obviously fought in Ukraine. What's going on? So, let's see. The Russian government has long held this position when asked about the group, nominally headed by businessman Yevgeny Prigozhin. Wagner's de facto existence was only acknowledged by the Russian military when the group became involved in the fighting in Donbass last year, in particular at Popasnaya and Artyomovsk, also known as Bakhmut. Earlier this week, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed the report by a French outlet that Putin had met with 35 members of Wagner on June 29th, several days after the group engaged in armed mutiny. On Thursday, Putin was asked to give his version of what happened, and I'm quoting Putin. I don't have a version, end quote, the Russian president replied, and I'm quoting him again. You or NATO may have a version. I have what actually happened, end quote. Well, I have to put it in my repertoire because that's actually what it is. It's not his version, but you know, it's kind of like, hey, this is what happened. It's what you tell us, what you, memorized of whatever happened. But hey, that's a good one. Never heard that before. According to Putin, he wanted to meet with Wagner commanders who had fought honorably, more so than Prigozhin, though he was present as well. And I'm quoting Putin. At the meeting, I gave an assessment of what they did on the battlefield and what they did during the events of June 24. End quote, Putin said. And I'm quoting again. Third, I showed them the positive variants of how they could continue their service, including in combat. That's all. End quote. At one point, Putin said he offered the men gathered at the Kremlin to continue their military service. under the same commander they had served for the past 16 months, known by his call sign Grey Hair. While many of them nodded, Prigozhin spoke up on their behalf and said they did not agree. So Prigozhin said, "Mofos, you are my employees here, and you're not going to continue under Grey Hair." Interesting here. Prigozhin played hard in front of Putin. Interesting as well. After laying siege to the military headquarters in Rostov and sending a convoy of vehicles towards Moscow, Prigozhin ordered Wagner to stand down on June 24th, after Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko mediated a deal with the Kremlin. Under the terms of the deal, Wagner would be reintegrated into the Russian armed forces, while Prigozhin would move to Belarus, and the criminal case against him for armed mutiny would be dropped. Well, I read a few articles, actually two, to be more precise, where they said that Wagner Group returned all the weapons that they had. That means they disarmed themselves in Russia. So that means they don't have any more weapons in Russia as the private military company, but they still operate in Africa. So this is, as of now, interesting that Prigozhin said no, they're not going to continue, even though they nodded. Probably Prigozhin knew better that that's about it. So I don't know exactly what to make out of that. What was the point of he offered, Putin said, okay guys, if you want to still continue under your commander, and it's an employment, and Prigozhin said no, they don't want. He decided for them. So I know Prigozhin, I don't know, but I haven't found any article saying that Prigozhin is still in Belarus. I know that he went to Belarus. I don't know if he went to Belarus. They said he flew to Belarus. There's no evidence he landed over there. The airplane, one of his airplanes took off, landed in Belarus. Then it flew back to Russia. Then Prigozhin showed up in St. Petersburg to pick up his weapons and other shit that he had over there. I think one of the head offices is in St. Petersburg. So, and then I don't know where he's at. The fact is, they're done, and the fact that Putin said there's no such a thing as primary military company, that means that's the end of it on the territory over there. I think Wagner is gone and no more. And probably, I don't know how to put it mildly, but I think Putin will eventually take care, or if not Putin, some others will take care of Prigozhin, if you know what I mean. Unless Prigozhin pulls a little ace from his little short-sleeved shirt and say, here it is, I'm going to Trump you, Donald Trump you. We'll find out. Wagner Group had no chance against the Russian military. It would have created some problems for the Russian military, because they had to divert some of their resources from the front to destroy them. But surely the Wagner Group would have been destroyed unless parts of the military, the Russian military, would have joined Prigozhin, and I think that was the whole plan here. I don't think just Prigozhin got a hot head, as he said, and all that. Probably that's also valid, but I think that might have been more than that. The fact that these guys in the West yap around, some generals disappeared, and 13 Russian generals were officials were arrested, including that guy, the general that was well, we don't know yet. I don't know, and once I can't trust these guys whatsoever, neither the Russians. But let the things settle down, and if Putin will be feeling comfortable and really, I think, in power, he might come and tell us, yes, those guys were arrested, those guys cooperated with those guys tried to overthrow the Russian government and destroy Russia and destroy the Russian people. Therefore, we acted in your name, in your behalf, and we took care of them, and they are arrested and they will be trialed, court-martialed for treason and some No, something like this. I'm waiting for that. If that will be the case, unless Putin is not going to be in the meantime. Well, I don't think that things are settled in Russia yet. I think that's a lot, and that's mostly because of what the Western mass media propagandizes us and tells us, oh, that's not okay, oh, that's blah, 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 it's uncertainty and so on. That's the Russians say, no, that's hey, okay, that's everything is back in business. I don't know, we'll find out. I don't think that this is the end of Wagner mutiny. But definitely Prigozhin is out. And Putin will take over, or the Russians, the Russian state will take over the Prigozhin's little mercenary things in Africa, unless Prigozhin will be like, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir to Putin and kept under surveillance. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.